Hello student. Today we are going to start with the sixth lesson of the history standard 8 entitled as Beginning of Freedom Movement. So by the title we come to know that it is a big freedom movement and it is the beginning of that. Now English education made mixed effects on the Indian society. The seeds of the nationalism were sown by the reforms of the newly educated society. So what is this newly educated society? The education system which was introduced by the Britishers. So, due to the various movements in different parts of India, a favorable situation was created to build a political organization on all India level which will bring together the various provincial political organizations, different groups of political aware people, and to express the aspiration of the nation by diverting the public attention towards the question of nation. So, due to the enlightenment, due to the awareness of the education, so the people become aware about the nationalism, and various organizations were created by keeping the view of freedom or free nation before them. The number one point, centralization of administration during British rule. So there was a centralization of the administration. Now let us see what this point covers. Now due to the British administration, the implementation on India brought the nation under one roof in its true sense. Now as the British were ruling in India, so in order to make this their administration very softly and smoothly working, they brought it under one roof, that is under the British rule. Now due to the identical reforms all over the country and equality before law, the feeling of nationalism developed among the people. Why? Due to the identical reforms, we need an identical reform as an Indians all over the country and equality before law, as there was equality before law. Therefore, the feeling of nationalism, that is to love our nation, that is developed among the people. For the convenience of administration, the swift movement of the army, the British built a network of roads and railways. So the Britishers here built the network of road and the railways. It is for them, just for the quick movement, so that they can go far away from one point to the another point of the nation. They can reach quickly, and if there is any struggle, they can crush it down. Any revolt, they can crush it down. But these facilities benefited the Indians as well. Yes, Indian people also took its benefit. People from different parts of India came in contact with each other. There was increase in communication and the feeling of nationalism grew up. So as a result, the means of communications were very much easy and developed. So the people from the various parts of the country, they were traveling from one part to the another part. They were sharing their knowledge, they were sharing their thinking. Okay, so this has brought the feeling of nationalism among them. Next point, economic exploitation. As the Britishers were ruling India, so they exploited India economically and very severely. The Indian wealth was flowing towards the England by all means. Indians were taking all our means, our income to the England. Now due to the imperialist policy of England, there was beginning of economic exploitation of India. So farmers were compelled to take cash crops, burden of land taxes, continuous famine, all these broke down the backbone of Indian agriculture. So, due to these natural problems and the man-made problem created by the Britishers, so the backbone of the Indian agriculture was totally broken. The traditional industries declined, which lead to the rise in unemployment. As the traditional industries are closed, so the number of unemployed people increase. The capitalists exploited the worker. Now, who are these capitalists? The person who has more money. Saukar we can call it as. So those capitalists who holds a lot of money with them, or rich people, they exploited the workers class. Various new taxes were imposed on the middle class. This led to the growth of discontent among the people. So this is the part of economic exploitation, what is told here. As the Indian backbone, the backbone of Indian farmers, that was totally broken due to the man-made disasters and the exploitation by the Britishers, as well as imperialist policy, as well as the heavy land taxes were imposed on the farmers and the middle class. So traditional industries declined. So there was exploitation of the worker class. So how economic exploitation happened, that is told in this point. Now Western education. Next point, Western education. Now due to the spread of Western education, new ideas such as justice, liberty, equality, democracy, etc. were introduced to the Indians. Now Indians understand due to this Western education which they were taking, that is justice, liberty, equality and democracy. So these ideas were introduced by this Western education. Rationalism, scientific attitude, humanity, then nationalism. So these principles were accepted by the Indians. What is that? Scientific attitude, as they were learned in the British education system. So they developed scientific attitude, they developed humanity, they developed nationalism, that is love for the country. So these principles were accepted by the Indians. So therefore they inculcated a feeling that we are capable of carrying out the work of the country and its progress is possible by following these principles. So they decided we can do the progress of the country by following these principles. India is a country of diverse language, but with the introduction of English language, India got a new medium of communication. So recently the English language that was introduced, so we got the new medium of communication and as well as education. Study of ancient Indian history. The Asiatic Society was established at Bengal by the British. Now this is the image of Asiatic Society. Okay, this is the building, Asiatic Society in Thailand. So many Indian and Western scholars started study of Indian culture. The manuscripts in Sanskrit language, Persian language and other languages were examined and research was published. Dr. Bhaudaji Lad, Dr. R.G. Bhandarkar, these Indian scholars made intensive study of ancient Indian culture. After understanding that we are blessed with the glorious ancient tradition, the Indians were awakened with the sense of identity. So here Indian understands that we are really blessed with the glorious ancient traditions as we have it. So why not to use it, or why not to continue it? And the Indians were awakened with the sense of identity. So they understand that what was their identity and what they are fighting for, what they need to fight for again. The Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute is working since last 100 years in Pune. So this is the building of the institute, the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, and it is working since last 100 years in Pune, and it is studying the ancient Indian culture and spreading all over India. Next point, contribution of newspapers. Now during this period, English and vernacular newspapers, vernacular that is in local languages, produced in local languages. So these newspapers and periodicals that means which publish after a particular period of 8 days or 15 days, 20 days or 1 month, periodicals that came to be published. Through these newspapers, political and social awakening took place. So people were reading the news related to the social and political changes, and they were getting the various knowledge. Newspapers like Darpan, Prabhakar, Hindu, Amritbazar Patrika, Kesari, Maharatta, that is Maratha, started criticizing the government. So the people became aware about the point of view about the Britishers. How are they treating Indians? And they were getting knowledge through these newspapers like Darpan, Prabhakar, Hindu, Amritbazar Patrika, Kesari, etc. So these are the few images of the old papers like Kesari, Muknayak, Navabhavan, Maharatta, that is Maratha actually it is, Darpan. So just for the example. Next point, the establishment of Indian National Congress. On 28 December 1885, The first session of Indian National Congress was held at Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit School in Mumbai. So this is the very first, we can say the first session of Indian National Congress. So it is one of the committee, one of the organization fighting for the rights of the Indians, that is Indian National Congress, and its first session, that first meeting was held at Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit School in Mumbai on 20th December 1885. 72 delegates from different provinces of India participated in this session. Totally 72 delegates. Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee, a renowned, that is a very famous lawyer from Kolkata, was the president of this session. So he was the first president, that is Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee was the first president of this session. In this session they established the Indian National Congress. Now just have a look at this person. He is the president over the first session of the Indian National Congress held at Bombay 1885. He was one of the leading figures in the first phases of the national movement in the country. He was a trained lawyer, Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee. And here we have a figure, Alan Octavian Hume, a British officer, took lead in the establishment of Indian National Congress. So with his support, the Indian National Congress was found. And we can say he is the father of Indian National Congress. Name of the person is Alan Octavian Hume. Increase the proportion of Indians in the administration, reduction of military expenses by British government. Such statements were sent to the British. So what is sent? So Indian people should participate more in the administration of Britishers, and the British should decrease the military expenses. So that was the statement that was sent to the Britishers by him. Next point, objective of the Indian National Congress. Now let us look at the objective of the Indian National Congress. To make the people from different parts of India forget the differences in religion, race, caste, language, geographical territories, and bring them on a common platform. That means to decrease the gap of religion, race, caste, and language, to make people feel that all are one. Again, to understand each other's problem and views, to increase the feeling of oneness among the people. So take efforts for the development of the country were the objectives of the Indian National Congress. So these are the objectives of the Indian National Congress. Next point, the moderate phase 1885 to 1905. The period between Indian freedom movement 1885 to 1905 is known as the moderate phase. The early 10 years after establishment of Indian National Congress, their contribution was very slow but consistent. So compared to the speed, it was very slow, but it has a consistency. The leaders of Indian National Congress were realistic and highly educated. So that was the plus point of this moderate phase. Those who are the leaders and the followers of this phase, they were highly educated, and they were aware that through organized work a strong foundation needs to be built up. So Western thinkers' philosophy of liberalism, freedom, equality, fraternity, those values had an impact on them. Which one the value had impact on them? The Western thinkers, the philosophy of liberalism, and the freedom of equality, fraternity, equality, fraternity, that is brotherhood. These are the values were inculcated on their mind. So they believed in the constitutional methods. They had a hope that if we demand through constitutional methods, then the British will give justice to our demands. that is to the constitutional methods. So, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Now, please keep in mind who are the followers or the leaders of these faiths. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, Surendranath Banerjee were all moderate leaders. So these are very important one. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, Surendranath Banerjee. These are the moderate leaders. In the session of Indian National Congress, the different resolutions were put forward by them, such as to get representation in provincial legislature, jobs for educated Indians, cutting down the increasing expenses on military, legislature and judiciary should be separated for the safeguarding legal rights of Indian etc. So these are the points that they had highlighted in different resolutions which they had made, or the requests which they had put forward toward the Britishers. To cause a split in the national movement, the British implemented the policy of divide and rule. But as the Britishers saw that Indians had made the organization and the moderate phase has arrived, through the moderate phase, the many leaders had come together and they are putting forward their demands. So Britishers decided to divide them on the basis of caste, religion, sex, and the territorial boundaries. So on this basis, so they applied the policy called divide and rule. Divide them and rule again. One of the followers of these moderate faiths, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee. He is the first person to qualify the British Civil Service, that was known as Indian Civil Service previously, ICS. So this is the first person in India who qualified this ICS. And this is the Firoz Shah Mehta, the active leader of this moderate faiths. The extremist faiths, that is 1905 to 1920. All Indian leaders who were politically aware, they kept aside their differences of caste, religion, language, province and gathered on a single platform of Indian National Congress. So all had gathered for the sake of country by forgetting their differences of caste, religion, languages and provinces. So there were unanimous decisions regarding the objectives of the Congress and taking forward the movement by constitutional means. But there were differences regarding the working system. So it was based on the working system. There was the differences. So these were ideological differences based on the ideologies. From these differences, two main political groups were formed. The moderates, who advocates peaceful and constitutional manners, and the extremists, who believed in severe struggle for the attainment of freedom. And Lokmanya Tilak was the head of this extremist faiths. I repeat again, the moderates who advocated the peaceful and constitutional manners, they were believing in just take it patiently, anything the Britishers do, but take it patiently and very peacefully. But the extremists was against of it. They were telling that go and crush the revolt, go and make an attack. So they were very fierce, and they were very much fierce and very aggressive, who believed in severe struggle for the attainment of freedom. Lala Lajpat Rai, that is Lal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, that is Bal, and Bipin Chandra Pal, that is Pal. Lal, Bal, Pal. So these three were known as Lal, Bal and Pal. So these three were believed to be the extremist leaders. Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal. In the early period, the extremist leaders, for bringing political awakening among the Indians, used methods like newspapers, national festivals and national education, Kesari and Maratha, were the newspapers through which Lokmanya Tilak made severe criticisms on the suppressive policy of the British. So these extremist leaders, they were bringing the political awakening among the Indians, used methods like the newspapers and national festivals and national education. So they carried out the national education, national festival just to create the nationalism among the people. And through newspaper, they were giving the knowledge to the people about regarding the policies of the Britishers. So Kesari and Maratha, these newspapers through which they were used to write. Lokmanya Tilak made severe criticism on the suppressive policy of the British. In Bengal province, Amritbazar Patrika. So this is the newspaper Amritbazar Patrika was a mouthpiece of extremist ideology. So it was in Bengal province. Amritbazar Patrika was the mouthpiece of extremist ideology. By forgetting the internal differences, people should come together and exchange their ideas. Common people should get inspiration from contribution of national personalities. With those objectives, Tilak started organizing Shiv Jayanti and Ganesh Utsav. Shiv Jayanti and Ganesh Utsav. So that was one of the means to make people to come together and share our views and create the feeling of nationalism among them. For political reasons, if people come together, then government will ban them. But for religious reasons, if people come together, the government will not ban them, was the opinion. In the Mandala prison, Tilak wrote Gita Rahasya. It is the name of the book. And Mandala, it is the place. So in that prison, Mandala prison, Tilak wrote Gita Rahasya, the holy book. So this is the cover page of the book, Gita Rahasya. Its core was philosophy of Karma Yoga and stressed that people should always be in action. So action here, it means karma, always take an action. The extremist leaders established education institutions for creating a generation concerned about own languages and tradition. So, in order to give the Indian education and to create Indianness among them, they started the Indian education system. The extremist leaders were of the opinion that if lakhs of the people take part in the freedom movement and challenge the British government by struggling against them, only then success will be achieved. Even if 1 lakh people challenge the Britishers, then India can be freed by the Britishers. That was the philosophy of the extremists. They unanimously believed that the movement should be made more severe. But they did not adopt the means of armed revolution, rather insisted for an extensive public agitation. So they fierce the mind of the people. The moderates laid the foundation of freedom movement and the extremists carried forward the movement. In 1897, in Pune, the epidemic of plague had spread on a large scale. So there was epidemic of plague that was spread on large scale. The hundreds of people died due to it. An officer named Rand was appointed. The plague patients were searched out and oppressive measures were adopted. As a revenge, the Chafekar brothers assassinated Rand. That means they politically killed him. The government tried to connect relation of Lokmanya Tilak with this conspiracy. After being unsuccessful, the government imprisoned Tilak with revenge. These are the images of Chafekar Bandhu. So that's it for this video. In next video, we will see the partition of Bengal, anti-partition movement, 4-point program of Indian National Congress, difference between moderate and extremist, and the remaining part, that is home rule, First World War and its impact. So that will be seen in the second number video. Keep watching, share and subscribe.